Okay, Libra Rising, in around 18 months, you might understand what this video was really about. I'm Sook Boy, you're awesome. Let's talk about it. Now, if you're old enough, think back to the time period in your life between 2007 and 2009. We're getting a repetition of a particular pattern, and that is the South and the North node moving into your 5th house of Aquarius and your 11th house of Leo. What does that mean? What was the agenda of that period? What was the narrative arc? What was the thread? Because it's about to stitch its way back into your life. Now, history does not repeat, it just echoes. You're not going to go through exactly the same circumstances, but that's a good place to anchor yourself or give yourself some clues about what the next 18 months might look like for you. Recently, the nodes shifted back into the 5th and the 11th house, and it would have been very subtle. You probably haven't even felt it or noticed it yet. It will be activated, or it becomes more significant when we experience eclipses in this area, and for the next 18 months, that's when most of the eclipses will occur. Eclipses typically signify major beginnings or major endings in this area of your life, the 5th and the 11th house. Now, the 5th house, in a nutshell, is all about your self-expression. It's your relationship with children. Also, it's your relationship with risk tolerance and gambling, and also some situationships and romantic love affairs. But just think about it like your own self-expression, whereas the 11th house is more so about your social expression, how you show up, collaborate, and contribute to your network, the people that you know. Leo is the part of you that wants to take the spotlight, the part of you that wants to take the initiative. It wants to lead, it wants to motivate, it wants to inspire others with its words and its actions. It's playful, generous, optimistic, but it can also be very performative. Think about a politician that's very performative, that's not really that authentic. They just say what needs to be heard so they get the validation or recognition that they require. And in that regard, Leo is about leading the charge, taking the initiative, being the politician, being the influential person, persuading other people. But it's about the individual more than anything. Now, on the opposite side of the zodiac, we have Aquarius, and that's all of the individuals. It's the ideology of individualism and how we all contribute to the culture, the cultural zeitgeist. So Aquarius, cultural zeitgeist; Leo, cult of personality. Now, for Libra Rising, having Leo in the 11th house makes you really charismatic, generous, charming, optimistic, personable, magnetic even. And it gives you some talents, gifts, and abilities around being able to socialize and draw in people so they pay attention to what you have to say. It gives you a lot of authority in social situations. Now, the South Node is basically some kind of cosmic vacuum cleaner, and it wants to repel anything that isn't working for you. Coping mechanisms. In this case, have you been performative with your friends? Have you been honest with your friends? Have you been censoring yourself with your friends? Have you been scared to challenge the status quo with your friends and networks? Now, it's more than just your friends. It's your acquaintances. It's people that you've met via your career. It's actually the house of gains. So it's people that you meet at conferences and events and that sort of thing as well. Also, your reputation online, how active you are online. And if you're in a Discord server or a Facebook group, who are you there? The question is, have you been performative? Are you looking for validation, or are you actually being and saying who you really are? The South Node wants to incinerate anything that isn't authentic or anything that isn't really working for you anymore. This could mean that maybe it's not you that's been inauthentic. It's actually been some of your friends, and you might have to let some of them go over the next 18 months. Many of you will be asking, is this person really worth my time, worth my energy, worth my effort? Do I really want to bring this person through to the next phase of my life? Do I see myself, being friends with them or having something to do with them moving into the future? So whereas the South Node incinerates old things that aren't working, the North Node amplifies new things. So that South Node is very familiar. As I said, it's a coping mechanism. It's things that you've always relied on to get validation or recognition or to feel somehow seen. Whereas this North Node has an insatiable thirst. It's an instinct that wants you to move towards a greater momentum. And although it's very unfamiliar, it's very rewarding if you invest in it. It has a compounding effect. And it's down in the 5th house. Now, the 5th house is your own self-expression. Not how you express yourself socially, but how you authentically find enjoyment, playfulness, and pleasure in your life. For the last 3 years, Pluto has been moving through this 5th house, and so there's been some kind of crisis or transformation or completely different approach to what you actually find interesting and what your interests are, what your passion projects are. And so, Pluto's been transforming or regenerating, destroying old passion projects and introducing new ones. And maybe that requires a new tribe. Or maybe you've just become a lot more experimental or unconventional about how you want to express yourself, and this old friendship circle just isn't the right circle of people that you can really be sincere and authentic. Now, Saturn is the ruler of this 5th house, and it's in your 7th house of Aries. 7th house Aries, that's really about your really important relationships, and Saturn is really putting a lot of pressure and impatience on the types of people you want to commit to. There could be a lot of pressure on you to collaborate, commit, sign a contract, get into an agreement with someone, romantic, business, platonic, or otherwise. And, Saturn's really putting up some constraints, barriers, giving you a lot of psychological resistance potentially. Well, there's just a lot of pressure in that relationship, and it's kind of forcing an outcome, and you might not be ready for that commitment yet. But in any regard, it's asking you to have a very critical eye about who you want to spend your time with, who you want to collaborate with, what kind of relationships you want to contribute to. And all of those interpersonal one-on-one relationships actually build up to your friendship circles. When you look at your friends, when you look at your network, the following you have on social media, what kind of communities you're contributing to, are you being really honest with yourself? Are these people really your tribe? Now, the 5th house is the playground of the zodiac, and it also represents your love life and your children or relationship with children. So many of you could be restructuring your ideas and your approach to whether or not you want to start a family or have children. Maybe you've been in a situationship or some kind of romantic engagement that hasn't been committed for some time, and that's getting a little more serious, but you don't want it to be so clingy. You want your independence, you want your freedom in this relationship, but for whatever reason, there's some pressure here to commit on a deeper level. Or if you've already had a family, you've had children, maybe they're getting a bit older and you have more independence, you have more freedom, and you just don't know what to do with your time. Are you filtering out needy people? Are you filtering out greedy people? Over the next 18 months, it'll be a lot less about impressing anyone, performing for an audience, for example, and more about just how you authentically want to show up and what that really looks like and what your real interests are, what you're really passionate about, rather than just talking about the local sporting team or the interesting weather we've been having. No, this is about you kind of going deep and being maybe a little bit more experimental or eccentric or quirky with who you really are, and finding relationships that nurture this version of you. Additionally, the next 18 months are probably going to challenge your expectations that you put on your relationships and vice versa. Having complete autonomy for yourself and what you're in control of, you can only control the controllables, and not relying potentially on other people to help see things through. Finding structure, strength, independence, and sovereignty in your own hustle, in your own agenda. As a thank you for watching this entire video, please feel free to send me a DM. I'll send you a coupon code for 30 Australian dollars off my natal and transit readings exclusively for new clients. Only love, positive vibes always. Hope that helps. Okay, bye.